I'm a great fan of the graphic language of data, of charts, of icons, of the visual reduction. And I feel that in the last maybe, I don't know, 5-10 years, this way of presenting data has become a mainstream thing. If you would have to boil it down, what does a graphic designer do? They create a bathroom sign so the women know in which room to go to and the men know in which room to go to. For me, that's like the ultimate reason for being a graphic designer, and everything else is a more complex derivative of that. My work is all about working with images that people can relate to, and I feel by now it's just a language, almost like a visual dialect that a lot of people speak, and so I try to make it my own and use it for my work. I'm really obsessed about how do people see my work, what's their experience, can they relate to what I do, do they have a shared visual universe? I really think about that a lot, and a certain amount of insecurity is a very helpful trait for any kind of designer, because it really gives you the openness to relate to a reader. It's all about the audience. It's not about fulfilling your own creativity, even though that's always a part of it, but it's about the reader understanding what you do. And my credo really is, if I make a joke and I think it's funny, but the audience doesn't laugh, it's not funny. The image is becoming more important because words and images, you can't really separate them on the web. And I hope that this will also lead to a new approach for editors, that they have to be more knowledgeable with what people know and what they don't know and what they understand and don't understand. It's probably like the favorite sport of all designers, especially illustrators, to bitch about clients. Of course, they're the ones who kill ideas, who give you a hard time with deadlines, with changes. Clients have made my work a lot better. There's some art directors without whom I don't think I would have been capable of doing the stuff I do, because since I work for a reader, I need also it's about communication, and communication cannot really happen within one person. So I think for most jobs, you really need somebody to bounce things off, somebody who comes in with a suggestion, somebody who sometimes has a larger view of how your design will actually function in context. And I think when you have a good client, the client can make you so much more of a better designer. And the few exceptions where they give you a hard time, I think in the scheme of things don't really matter. When I left New York last year, one of the big reasons professionally for me was I wanted to try new things, and also try new things that included the chance of failure, of just doing something where I had no idea what the outcome was. And I knew some editors at the Times, and they started creating these visual blogs on the New York Times website. And I thought that this was something that on the one hand is kind of technically close to what I've been doing, but on the other hand, really scary and really different. So we talked about starting a blog where I tell stories, and the editors, they were very precise by saying, it has to be personal. For the web, for something like this to work, it has to be a personal story. When we moved to Berlin, we had the chance to redo bathrooms, and I always had the dream of creating very simple pixel drawings in a bathroom and really use the standard 10 by 10 centimeter tiles that I grew up with and create a very simplistic art. I ended up doing the kids' bathroom with the New York City subway maps. My kids absolutely love the New York City subway, and so I tried to take a New York subway map and fold it into the bathroom and then create all the lines and simplify it that it works in this very coarse screen. When I had this idea of a voodoo doll, in my imagination they're really roughly crafted. And so I thought my inability and my impatience to work with fabric and with needle and thread was perfect for that, because they would look really amateurish and crude. And it took a long time though to create them. And there were, I think, for every one that you see on the blog, there's like 3 or 4 versions that just completely fell apart or were absolutely illegible. I got an email from a witch who said that the whole thing really describes witchcraft, but I'm using voodoo dolls, and she was really angry for me mixing these two separate fields together visually, and she hoped that the Times would take the whole thing down because it was an obvious editorial mistake. Every designer who spends a good deal of a day thinking about 10% magenta or 5% cyan and line thicknesses, you have to become neurotic eventually. It's more or less inevitable. I often think about all I'm doing is just virtual. I don't fix a broken bone of a person. I just sit there, think about ideas and whether somebody who's 5,000 miles away would understand this. And this is like a scary proposition, and I think my greatest accomplishment professionally is that I haven't gone insane doing what I do all day. In my daily life, I hope I'm not too neurotic. And in my blog, I often, for every blog so far, I've got a lot of emails and comments where people say, oh, that you have ADD, or you have a problem with your bladder, or with this and with that. So kind of like every blog I've been has returned like a list of medications to fix it. Ultimately, I try to exaggerate things, so I think so far I'm in okay shape.